Hello, everyone, and welcome. You're listening to DTSE Talks, the place to be to learn more and explore the life in Magenta. You wonder what's going on in the company? Where do we excel, and what's our lessons learned? Join me as I delve into the life in DTSE and interview employees as well as guests to answer all your questions. I'm your host, Umayma Buswab, and today I'm introducing you to the first and unique episode of DTSE Talks. So, I have brought colleagues from Czech Republic, Germany, Slovakia, and Romania to share in a light-hearted way our differences and some of our funny stereotypes, all in good humor, of course. So, it's gonna be really a bit crowdy in this episode, so bear with me, it's a unique set. Our guests each give their personal intake on the stereotypes, give their advice to make collaboration work best in teams, and later on, we have a special guest. I don't want to give it away, but he's quite known to the colleagues who were part of the TSE creation. So stick around. Have you worked with colleagues from different countries? Ever left a meeting room assured that you got the key message only to realize over a cup of coffee with a colleague that they got a totally different understanding of the meeting? That's because we all have our different cultures, different behavioral setup, and a different way of communicating. And the goal of this episode is to learn how to understand our differences and look beyond them. So, without a further ado, let's go straight to Germany with our first guest. Our first guest today is Judith Goldman. Judith, you've been working with Deutsche Telekom Group for 21 years now. You had different HR functions and you were responsible yourself for international assignments for Deutsche Telekom expats from all over the world. And just recently, you became again the expat in Slovakia, where you took the position of Vice President for P2P International. You have a passion for travel and international mobility. You've been everywhere, I see. And your life motto is if you don't like something, change it. If you cannot change it, change your own attitude. I love that. Super strong motto and a super way to start this podcast, Judith.
Thanks, May.
Hi, so welcome and thanks for being here to share with us your experience with cultural differences and stereotypes. I'm glad you joined us and I introduced you a little bit. So if you want, you can introduce yourself a little bit more or say something about yourself that most people don't know.
I think the main things you said already about me. So my passion is traveling. Also, I love to work abroad, to be abroad, work in the international environment. And I think something that is, changed my life dramatically, so to say, my work life is that after so many years in HR, I changed now to finance. So total job rotation, not only the country, but also the subject, which is extremely interesting for me.
So are you enjoying the challenges so far?
Yes, I like it, and it's really nice, and it's challenging for all of us because I'm, here, Corona situation. So I just came 1st of October in the middle of the lockdown again. So everybody's doing his and her best to onboard me here locally, in at home, maybe, mainly.
That's super. So you're a guest today because we're talking about culture and you've had your fair experiences with international environments. The first question is, what do you think about the stereotypes and do you think you use them personally in your daily life?
Yes, I do. Because I think stereotypes are there. Yeah, you cannot avoid to have them. And I also don't think it's such a bad thing because stereotypes also help us. Yeah, they support us. And for first impression or first behavior, when we meet people from totally different culture, let's say everybody knows when you meet someone from Japan, you shouldn't go there and hug this person and kiss that person and say, hello, how are you? This is something that a stereotype
Mm.
helps us also to avoid this kind of situations, which are also not always nice. And I think stereotypes not the problem. I think when you are not open to change your opinion about somebody as a person and prejudices, that is a negative thing. Yeah, when you're not ready to change your own attitude or your own mindset about someone or another culture.
That's true. We should make really the difference between prejudice and stereotyping. And you had the time and the opportunity to meet different cultures. And the question for you now is, do you have any situations where you've been stereotyped as typical German?
Absolutely. I mean, I think when you are German, you meet a lot of stereotypes abroad. Yeah. So because people have a very clear picture about us
Yeah.
as a culture, and when you work abroad, people think that yeah, you're very serious. You never talk about private stuff. You're always like to the point at work, and more introverted, very direct, which is seen quite rude also in some countries. So I think that are the stereotypes. But on the other hand, also the people think you are very precise, reliable. Yeah, this kind of German engineering. This is still a brand
Mhm.
in the world, and but mostly people think that we are quite serious. I think also in job. And I know when I was first time in Slovakia, when I was quite young, I think the biggest compliment that my colleagues gave me after a few days was that they said, "Oh, for German, you're a quite nice person." And I was like,
That's
"Ah, okay, thank you."
that's quite nice to hear. Also refreshing.
Yes, I think you have to live with that and not to close your eyes and to convince people that you are not only coming from a certain culture where they have a stereotype, but that we are all people and individuals. Yeah, and we have all our own personality.
Funny, interesting situations. And if you want to share more of them, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think the most challenging situation was when I worked and lived in South Korea when I was very young, for 3 months. And Asian culture is so different from ours, and you can have a lot of cultural trainings, but still, it's something, yeah, you need to be careful in the culture. And I think it was funny when both of us tried to adapt to the other cultures. So I was in the elevator
Hmm.
standing there with only Korean men, and the elevator door opened. And I waited for them to go out because in Korea it's like men's first, and they were waiting because it is ladies first for them. They obviously saw that I'm a Western woman, so
Uh-huh.
nobody of us left the elevator for 2 or 3 minutes,
Funny.
like stared at each other, like, okay, like who's first now? And then so that was something that was interesting. And I think in Asia a lot of strange things happened to me, and but funny after all. Yeah.
This is also some nice value to pick from other cultures. So this is what's interesting and fascinating when you are in an environment where you can learn from each other.
It's true. That's true. I think that you can learn a lot from each other, and I think it's more and more interesting or important because all of us will work more and more international environments, so we all somehow have to adapt to each other. Or also, I must say, which is very challenging, is leadership in an international environment. And it's not only that every person is different in your team, but also you have different cultures. You have your own leadership style from your own culture. So I think that is even more challenging from my perspective when I compare it in the last years and now in that position.
So here I'll ask you, what is your best advice to make this collaboration work best in this multicultural environments we have?
I think the best advice is really ask for support. It's not a shame when you don't have experience in in international environment, or um, if you don't know about it. So I think we have a lot of colleagues who are really willing to share. For example, also when before I moved to Slovakia, I asked other colleagues at DTSE who had this kind of exchange, or from T systems who went from Germany to Slovakia in a leadership position, and said, okay, please tell me, give me some advice, give me some feedback, and they were all open to share. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
that is something. Really ask for support. Yeah, it's not for every topic that you need some help. There are colleagues there who help you. Second thing is, if you are not willing to adapt, if you're not willing to change yourself, you shouldn't go abroad. Yeah, it's not. I'm not coming.
Simple as
It's
that.
pretty simple. Yeah, it's really simple because I'm not here to, and I cannot act in the same 100% way as I would in Germany. So, and you need to be aware of this before you go. Yeah, so don't be surprised that, oh my God, this is not home. No, it's not home. That's why you moved abroad. Okay, so it's something
Yeah.
that you need to adapt. You need to be willing to learn, and you need to be tolerant. And I think you should spend a lot of time on understanding really the environment and the people and learn from them. That's my
Mhm.
advice. And another always important advice for me is that when we talk about people and cultures in general, we are always focusing on the differences. But I'm sure we have more in common There are more things that we have in common than things that make us different or that we fall apart. So I think that is my advice. Look for the things that we have in common with each other.
Great. Thank you for this nice and lovely insight. And if you want to add something else or some funny situations come to your mind, please feel free to share it.
Too much funny situation that come to my mind.
Super. Thank you, Judith, for your experience sharing. And hope I talk to you in another time on some female leadership topics.
I'm there, May. Thanks for having me here today.
Our other guest today is Andre Hora. Andre, you're an M&A and finance professional with an international experience. You moved back to your hometown, Brno, in 2017 to be closer to your family and roots. And since then, you joined DTSE and you dedicated your career to strategy consulting and management. Today, you're the head of the strategy department in DTSE CZ, leading your team with passion and positive energy, and I can approve that. And
Good, glad to hear that.
yeah, it's true. And worth to mention, you're also a 2.3-meter tall, and you're just recently a super proud and happy father of a cutie pie. So, Andre, welcome to the fatherhood environment and life, and welcome to our DTSE Talks. Happy to have you here.
Thanks for inviting me. And by the way, it's 2.03, not 2.3. That would be crazy.
2.03. I said 2.3. So 2 meter and something. So Andre, I introduced you a little bit and talked a little bit more about your height. But please share with us something about yourself or something unique and nobody knows.
I think nobody knows that before I moved back to Brno, I left my employer that I worked with before and I took 3 months sabbatical, and it was also after I got my paragliding license. And then I moved to Nepal and I was volunteering in a school construction in Nepal for some time. And then I spent some time paragliding in Nepal and just having fun and hiking Annapurnas. And in total, I spent 3 months in there.
Nice.
And it was really awesome moment in my life and perfect moment to do it.
That's super cool. Do you still do paragliding?
Never since Nepal, because there are no big mountains around Brno to practice, and it's really time-consuming hobby. So
that's true.
maybe when I retire.
That would be cool. So, Andre, you know why you're here with us today. We have a topic about culture and stereotypes. And since you are a Czech person and you're also traveled around the world and you have a little bit of insights about different of cultures, that's why I thought it would be cool to invite you here. And because you're my boss and I have to. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's not true. So, what do you think about stereotypes? Do you think you use them in your life, and do you think they're important?
I think everybody has them a little bit, maybe even unconsciously encoded in their behavior. So probably to some extent, yes. But I try, like, I'm a really big fan of diversity and giving everyone equal opportunities and really looking at contributions and not on where people are coming from or if they're male or female or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think we need to be like that, the whole company. I actually saw a really good example of that in the US. I feel like in the US they were super good in this, and in Germany as well, actually.
Uh-huh.
I was really surprised how diverse the society is and how open it is, and it felt exactly like in the US. So I really appreciated it. And if I compare it to Czech Republic, I think it's also because we were behind the Iron Curtain for X years, and it's still in our DNA a little bit, or in the DNA in our parents and grandparents. I think Czechs are a little bit more careful about, people coming from different countries and from different backgrounds. And yes, of course, we're used to Vietnamese people because we know them, but like we're not so sure about people from Syria. And I think this is mentality that we need a little bit work on.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for the society because if you look at Germany, I know the first vaccine that was developed against COVID was developed by a company that's called BioNTech. And this company is owned and it was founded by, I don't know if even first or second generation immigrants from Turkey. So, it's always, you don't see the results right away if you have immigration and diversity and clash of cultures a little bit.
That's true.
But then it does have results. So I would like to see that in Czech as well.
Yeah, that's when you see the good side of having different people and diversity in your country and in your culture. So you've been abroad in 2 countries. I'm really interested to see how many different situations you've been in and what did you take from them. And some funny examples would be really cool.
I think with Americans, they are really talkative and they're really talkative on really superficial level, right? So like when I went shopping, I would get asked like 3 times during the 20 minutes I would be doing shopping how tall I was.
Oh.
Which never really led to any interesting conversation. It was always, "Hey, you're tall. Did you ever play NBA?" And then I said, "Yeah, I played for Chicago Bulls." And they were like, "No way!" And they're like, "Yeah, I was joking." No, man, joke. So
Oh.
not always.
But it's a starter for a conversation,
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
for them. Yeah. But yeah, it's different from the Czech culture, I believe, right?
Exactly. Yeah, Czechs are more closed, I would say. But then when you get closer with someone, they're much more willing to share even personal life details, stuff like that. That I never really got to the connection level of sharing personal details with any Americans, even though I lived there for 6 years and I was, I think, really good friends with some Americans.
Mm.
How did you feel in Czech? Did you encounter anything like that?
Maybe as a stereotype, it's the introvert part. We talked about it, but yeah, I didn't really think that Czechs were that introverts. And one thing I did before coming here is research a bit about how to behave in the society and how to behave in the community. And I read something about how to behave in the tram. And one first line, do not speak in the tram.
Really?
During the week, really, it's super silent. And sometimes if you even dare to talk on the phone loud, everyone will turn to you and be like staring.
Never happened to me. I haven't taken a tram for some time, but yeah, I never noticed that.
But it gets a bit loud in the weekends, of course, when there's like everyone partying, then it gets loud. That's what I noticed. Maybe for you it wouldn't look different, but for me, I come from a country it's really loud, and coming from that loud buses and loud trams and everything, and everybody's
Well, yeah,
talking, and here
then
it's like super silent.
you have a
And
bit different reference. If you're referencing Brno to Marrakesh, I can I can see that there is a disconnect.
yeah, but it's just really finding the silence in the tram. It's good. It's good sometimes. Uh, so you are lead of a team, and you kind of do have different nationalities. I mean, only me. But I wanted to ask you: did you have like any situation, maybe not in this team or before, a situation where there was a misunderstanding due to the difference of culture, and did you solve it, and how?
No, I don't think so. Like the only I think misunderstandings and
Did you?
conflicts, but a little bit in that direction was maybe when we were starting to work with Germany, and there was a lot of expectations,
Mm,
but
yeah.
um, I think it was about communication, maximize the communication. We talked about everything. We even did some personality coaching, which was really cool. Um,
That's
and
true. Yeah. We did a workshop.
and that really helped. And I can feel that now we're kind of fully up to speed in Brno, supporting Germany on eye to eye level.
Great. Andre, do you have anything else you want to share about maybe stereotypes or funny situations?
No, I think it's important that people remember that we're all on the same boat, and we just need to maximize communication to find a way together because we have a common goal
Yeah.
and we're in one company. And
Mm,
I think the more we make it work between different cultures, the better results we achieve eventually.
yeah. So that would be your advice to make our collaboration work
Yeah,
best.
maximum communication and find good points in people or find the good stuff in people, and you will get there.
Thank you for being here and for giving us the time. And I hope I'll talk to you another session in this podcast soon. Our next guest with us today is Laura Maria Gavrila. Laura, you began your career as a content manager with your master in multimedia production, gaining unparalleled experience while also establishing yourself as a respected web and graphic designer. Today, you're working within the DTSE Romania as a special product coordinator. You are widely known for your good mood, team mindset, and lots of expertise in brand management and content management. You're based in Bucharest, Romania, and currently you're doing an awesome job as the replacement for communication expert Christina Ionescu. And today you're here with us to share your experience and thoughts about our differences and our similarities. So, Laura, thank you very much for being here, and I'm glad that you're taking part of this podcast.
Thank you so much, May, for having me. I must admit that I'm a bit nervous because the first time I'm doing something like this. But I'm also very enthusiastic about taking part in this project and being one of your first guests.
Awesome. I'm also glad about it. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think about stereotypes? And do you think you use them automatically in your daily life?
Yes, definitely I use them. I believe that a lot of the stereotypes we have, they're ingrained in us and they happen on a subconscious level. I think it's part because of our upbringing, but also part of the content we consume.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, I think everybody uses stereotypes because it's easy for us to categorize people. And basically, that's what stereotypes are. We categorize people according to some criteria, generally cultural criteria. But there's, of course, the danger that we oversimplify this criteria. And sometimes it can lead to racism or other negative aspects. And generally having prejudice towards our colleagues.
Yeah, if you think about some stereotypes, Romanian stereotypes, and I'm actually quite interested.
Of course. The big thing that really defines us as a culture is that we are very hospitable. And if you go to visit someone in Romania, and you go to eat with them, they will insist very much to eat more. Like have another dish, and you will say no, thank you, and they will yes, please do. And the polite thing is to first say no, and then actually agree to eat more. And the funny story, I was with a choir I used to sing in my let's say teenage years. We were in Germany, and we arrived at our host's very late. We were super hungry, and of course the host was very generous and said, "Okay, do you want dinner? Are you hungry?" And we, like good Romanians, we said, no, thank you. And she was like, oh, "Okay, then let's go to bed." And we were like super hungry, and actually had to go back and explain the whole situation. And she was like, "Do meine Güte, why do you do this?
Why do you do this? Just say yes."
Yeah. So yeah, we almost went to bed hungry, but unfortunately, it wasn't the case in the end. I think that the younger generations, mine included, of course, we are trying to be more forward and leave this type of behavior behind. It's not necessarily bad, but it's not very helpful in communication. It's bad enough that most of our communication is done non-verbally, but the small part that is actually transmitted verbally should be direct and mean what it means. Now, not encrypted that way.
It could be confusing.
Definitely.
So, could you talk about some situation that happened at work and that needed to be solved because of a different cultural understanding? Did you have some kind of situation like this, and how did you solve it?
Yeah, this type of situation are pretty often because in DTSE Romania we have a lot of nationalities. We have a lot of colleagues from that are Greek, a lot of colleagues that are Slovak, some Czech people, and they all have their own particularities. One case that comes to mind that happened quite recently. The Greek team is sitting in the office next to the Romanian team. A team that offers services for Telecom Romania. And the guys from the Greek team, they always wanted to have the AC on like the lowest temperature possible because they ran very hot during the summer, which is understandably, especially in Bucharest. But the people from the Romanian team, they always said, no, it's too cold. Then this was a constant conflict between them, especially because in Romania we have something that I think there is no actual translation in English. There might be one in German. For current of air, if you leave like a door and the window open, then they get headaches and earaches. And this is something that medically doesn't exist.
I think it's from Eastern Europe. I think I hear it a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so there was a constant conflict between them, and one person from the Greek team would get up and turn on the AC, or one person from the Romanian team would get up and turn off the AC. And the solution, I think, was a bit, let's say, vehement, or I don't know how to put it, because we put lock boxes on the temperature display and the remotes where you could actually adjust the temperature and set the temperature someplace in the middle. So in the end, nobody was happy because it wasn't cold and it wasn't warm. So, but
It was in the middle.
It was in the middle, and this applied to the whole company because there were constant conflicts on this theme. But the end solution was actually to move the Romanian team next to another Romanian team where they could agree on the temperature.
Okay, that's true. So, what would be your advice to make this work in the multicultural environment actually efficient?
The first thing to think about is that we are all individuals. If we are part of the culture, we may we share some similarities with other people from that culture, but we are individuals and we are different. And we must always keep this in mind. And also another advice, let's say, it's really basic. You need to be a decent human being. And when you're a decent human being, you will always put yourself in the shoes of another person. Why is he or she telling that? Why is he acting like that? And maybe you can try and understand the reasons why they're doing that. And if you don't understand, maybe you can just open a line of communication with that person and just be honest and speak from your heart. I didn't understand why you said that or did that. What is the reasoning behind it? Maybe I understood something wrong. And just put everything out on the table and discuss it in an open and sincere manner.
Yeah, the communication is the key. Just
Exactly.
talk and not let anything for assumptions or guessing or talk. Laura, it was really great to have you here today. Thanks a lot for taking the time and having this nice conversation with me. If you want to add anything else before saying bye, please go ahead.
Thank you for having me. Like I said in the beginning, I was very enthusiastic to be part, and I hope that many people will benefit from this very friendly and open discussion. And I wish you very much success in this road ahead of you.
Thank you very much, Laura, and hope to see you soon. Now moving to Slovakia with our guest Rastislav Bekeni. Rasto, after earning your master's in economics from Masaryk University in Brno, you entered the world of financial controller to explore your passion for numbers. In 2015, you joined the ERP International Rollout projects in DTSE Slovakia to become today the R2R/GL stream lead, and in the line organization, you're the team lead for the end-to-end process team in Bratislava, where you're focused on the team's good spirit and good vibes. Rasto, hello, and thank you so much for being part of the podcast today.
Thank you very much for the invitation and having me here.
Yeah, Rasto, I introduced you a little bit, but if you want, you can say something that no one knows about you or something that none of your colleagues know about.
I am also part of Telecom MBA program, which some of my colleagues might not know. In this case, heading to the to the finish on 14 and 15 of January, we have a huge presentation in the front of our sponsor, and of course also management of DT, whole DT group. The information will be shared on YAM. Everybody, all the employees from DT Group can join. So colleagues, please, if you will have a chance and time, feel free to join. It will be definitely interesting topics that were solved as a final project.
That's great. I know I have a colleague, George Keval, is also part of this program. I don't know if Sophia.
Yes, he's my classmate.
That's great. So somehow you're close to my contacts in a way. So that's great. Talking about our differences. So talk about the stereotypes in general. And I wanted to ask your opinion. What do you think about the stereotypes? And do you think you use them in your daily life?
Well, definitely. Stereotypes are for me, it's a way of behavior that is created among among a group of people, and it's a completely different from another group. And I can say that stereotypes, we can perceive them every day, and it's completely natural for me that we have it based on our culture. I would say influences from our parents, family, friends. Therefore, I wouldn't say that is something bad. It is just something natural for me.
What are the stereotypes in Slovakia that are famous, and what do you think about them? Have you been in some situation where someone pointed out the stereotype in you?
Well, I have one really good in my mind when I'm thinking about the work, and I would say that our stereotype is that when we have a meetings with colleagues from different countries, we are kind of afraid of asking the questions. Perhaps we consider ourselves as I don't know, I would to say it delicately, not the smartest in the round. But this is the one stereotype I can perceive almost every day. We are
Yeah.
afraid of asking the questions.
Yeah, I think it's also the same here in Czech Republic. So these two countries agree in this aspect. And I also talked with a Czech colleague, and he mentioned the same thing. Actually, this kind of a shyness of participating in anything where there are a lot of people around. After each meeting, if you ask anyone, they will answer you and they will tell you what they thought, and they will then ask you the questions. I think
Yes,
so.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I really like the approach when or or the sentence that no question is stupid question. That is so well said, because it is true. I mean, when you have a big round, for sure you are not the only one that doesn't understand the topic or current part of the topic. So it's no
Yeah.
shame to ask a question to understand it.
Exactly. Okay, so did you have some funny situation at work where you had to think in the team, okay, this is a difference of culture, this is how I fix it? Do you have some example like that?
Well, I think we had a quite tough discussions with Croatian colleagues about the rollout. We were and we still are under a huge pressure, especially I would say they are, because they need to do regular job, and on the top of it, doing also rollout on their side. So we had a several tough discussions, but at the end I realized that it is just about the cultural differences, and what were said on the meeting at the end didn't mean so much, because 3-4 hours later we called each other and then we discussed, and it turned out that this was just the emotions.
Aha.
And then I realized, yes, it is about culture. They are simply more, I would say, more emotional. But it has nothing to do with you or nothing against you. Just the emotions are part of the discussion in their culture, in their country. And it takes time to process it, and it takes time to understand it. But once you get over this, the communication can be super sufficient, and there are no problems at all.
And what would you recommend to make this collaboration work best in this multicultural environment, especially with you, where you not only work with the colleagues from DTSE, but also from really other countries? What is your recommendation and advice you could give?
Well, from my personal experiences, we cannot take things too seriously. We cannot take it personal. And whenever we experience such a situation, it's very beneficial to take some time and process it, to think about it, perhaps from the different perspective, from think about how they perceive it, try to understand that we are not from the same country, we don't know each other so well, especially during these corona times when we cannot meet personally.
That's
It's
true.
very hard to show the emotions and see the gestures and mimics of the face. Therefore, really take time, think about it, cool down a little bit, and then get into the discussion again. I mean, always we can explain and we can discuss everything. And as I said, after sometimes things are completely different. You have the different perspective. Most probably also your counterparts have a different perspective. And in my case, this is working.
That's good to keep in mind. Think it that it's not because of you. It's not personal. It's actually something I tell myself all the time. I also come from this emotional country, so hallelujah. So yeah, it's a good sound advice. Super, thank you. Anything else you would like to add?
Well, I have to say that overall the cooperation within a DTSE or DT group that I experienced is great. We are really a huge company, or let's say a huge group with many different companies from many different countries. And for 5 years that I'm in a DT group, I have never met bad people or people that are mean. I have to say that we have really great cooperation, communication with colleagues from Germany, which are our main counterparts, I would say. I'm really happy. How does it work? How the management communicate and how the culture is developed.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for being here, Rasto. Really happy to get to know you first and to have you here. So I wish you the best. Now, finally, the guest that you've been waiting for. Our special guest today is Sebastian Baier, and I think a lot of you might recognize him because he was part of the creation of the DTSE in 2014. Sebastian, you are a privacy, security, and compliance consultant. You've been part of Magenta Group since 2009, and you worked with DTSE Romania and Deutsche Telekom before you decided to start your own journey in 2018. Your goal today as the founder of the digital marketing company RE7 Consult in Romania is to help companies and entrepreneurs to develop a proper digital strategy to win more B2B customers over the internet in and outside of Romania. Sebastian, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Umaima. Thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy that I got the invitation from DTSE, and I'm also really happy that I'm your first guest in this podcast today.
Yes, so you are my first guest from outside DTSE, and I'm really proud that you're the one who was part of the creation of the company.
Yeah, what can I say? Yeah, you mentioned it already at the beginning. So I was when I maybe I can tell you a bit more about myself.
Yes,
I
sure.
think not everybody at DTSE know me or might recognize me. So I started in 2006 at Deutsche Telekom, first as a trainee for 2.5 years as an IT businessman. Then I worked for a few months in the customer support, so mainly selling iPhones and Magenta and Entertain. And after that, I switched to the predecessor, which was the HR Business Services or Personal Service Telecom before. And since 2009, I'm working as a data privacy and IT security consultant. And when the project for DTSE started, so I joined the project in 2014. It was Project Aramis, and I was doing my bachelor in international business administration. And because it's international, one semester you have to go abroad for studying or for work. And because I was working for Telekom at this time, I was able to join the exchange program of Deutsche Telekom. So that gave me the possibility to combine the study abroad, the learning abroad, with the work from Deutsche Telekom. And in 2014, I went to Bucharest in Romania in July and started to work on the project Aramis, which was at this time only consisting of around 20 people, I think, in Bucharest, or even less. So it was a really big office, but not so many people and from different cultures. And that's when all started. Yeah.
Interesting. Sebastian, you talked a bit about yourself, so that's great for the people who don't know you. Now they know a little bit more about you. And today we're talking about culture, of course, and our stereotypes. So, my first question to you is do you believe that stereotypes are important? And do you believe that you use them in your daily life?
Yeah, I think stereotypes in general are important. For me personally, it helps me to, yeah, kind of to have kind of a shortcut, but it's also in another way it's dangerous to put people like in specific categories directly. So there are pros and cons, but yeah, sometimes I have to say I'm using stereotypes because it makes my life or the work easier.
And my question again is did your colleagues mention some German stereotypes and did you see in yourself that, yeah, actually this stereotype is right? Did you have this kind of situation?
Yeah, there are several things that I remember when I came the first time to Bucharest in 2014 and worked for Telecom. The colleagues in Romania also were like, they were surprised. For example, they thought these Germans are so cold-hearted. That's how they said it. And they were surprised how funny I could be and that I wasn't so cold-hearted. But other things like that we are punctual, I wouldn't say this for every German, believe me. I know lots of Germans that are not punctual.
Well, I know one that's the Deutsche Bahn that's never punctual.
Exactly, for example. And yeah, this with the punctuality, this is something that I am when it comes to meetings. Also, like that we are really organized. So yes, in work I can say I'm quite organized, but when it comes privately, when you ask my girlfriend, she wouldn't agree with this. But this is also
Different
what
personality.
exactly. This is also what they say about it.
Yeah, so that's true. The general stereotype about German is also that they're distant because they seem cold and they don't do small talk. And I guess the reason is that it differs from country to country. So in Germans, it's like a smaller or say more important personal space.
Yeah, that's a good example that you just brought up. I remember I was going to the grocery store and people, they were so close in the line.
Yeah.
I wasn't used to this, so my personal space was somehow invaded. I got used to this, but this was what was really for me like I was like, okay,
Yeah.
take a bit distance, but no, this is something I had to get used to. And I think now my personal space is much closer than it was before I left Germany, for example.
Like the notion of personal space is different from country to country, and you're an example that some stereotypes don't really apply on you.
Yeah, it's you can say this. For example, also with they expect you that you drink when you are German, you like beer. So I remember when I was going there, I wasn't really like somebody that liked beer. So they were then surprised that I wasn't like the typical German beer drinker, for example. But another thing I remember was when I came to Bucharest, it was a really warm welcoming. So the colleagues directly invited me to join them and so on. That was, yeah, they even invited me at their home, which is not in Germany like typical, I would say. So it's more like you invite new colleagues to go to a restaurant or something. Yeah, but I can say that in Romania it's a really warm welcoming, for example.
Yeah. Did you have any other stereotype, maybe some difference of culture in a situation with colleagues where you saw that, okay, this is really because of our culture differences that this is happening?
And in general, when you, for example, meet for meetings with colleagues, especially from southern Europe,
Yeah.
so they you knew already that they wouldn't be on time, which is okay. I learned from this. So when I, for example, say, okay, I want to have the meeting at 9:30, I invite them for 9 o'clock or 9:15 so that I know we can start the meeting at 9:30. Because when you work in a project with different cultures from different countries, others might be not so happy because they have to jump in another call. So this is something that I remember from my working experience internationally, how it is. I think what I realized was it's really helpful when you describe how did you come up with the thought. If you describe what makes you feel or think like this, so that the others can understand you better. Because especially when you deal with different type of person, not only different cultures but type of persons. They when they hear something, then it might be when I say something, they might be offended, but when you explain them how did you come to this conclusion, they understand better and they don't feel offended, for example. I don't have now a specific example, but this is something that helped me during the entire process.
Interesting. So, yeah, talking and maybe being more open about the thought process with people when you know that you're very different.
Exactly. Yep. To be aware, I think mindfulness is the key word here. To be aware and to be open-minded, and also try to put yourself in the other person, to understand better what might they understood. That helps a lot, I think.
Super. Sebastian, thank you very much for this nice conversation. I hope you enjoyed your time.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. And I would like to say also greetings to the former colleagues that still know me from data privacy or security audits or online trainings that I did. So yeah, thank you again for the invitation.
Super. I hope they remember you with good good memories.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
For sure. I'm joking, for sure. So, yeah, thank you, Sebastian, and thank you, dear listeners. So, that's all, folks. Thanks a lot for tuning in to the DTSE Talks and joining me today along with Judith, Andre, Laura, Rasto, and Sebastian. And they sure did share a lot of insights about the cultures. So, to make sure our collaboration works within international teams, first acknowledge that we're different from each other. We have different ways to communicate, so just be aware that not everyone experiences life the same way as you do. So, don't take things personally, be curious, mindful, and take time to process other people's behaviors. Put yourself in their shoes to try and understand where they're coming from. Also, explain how you got to your ideas and walk people through your thought process. This helps also people understand you better. And the biggest key to make this happen is to simply talk and discuss without emotions whenever an issue arises. And you will see the more you understand other people's mechanism, the less you get annoyed when they do something strange or weird for you. So, thank you for tuning in again. Join us next month as we debunk artificial intelligence with our AI incubator colleagues. And if you're like me, we're finally gonna understand what the heck is going on there and what the heck is AI about. Remember, you have until 15th of December to decide on the show's topics, so go ahead and contact us. Let's do this together. Make sure to go to Yum, subscribe to our podcast, and leave us a feedback.